All right, well, if we don't have the schools, maybe we should vote at least, why don't we vote on minutes that Julie was so kind to send out to us today? Did everyone get them? I believe it was today, right? Or was it yesterday,
Yep.
Julie?
It was this morning.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
As always, I don't mind if anybody has any corrections.
So starting with the 20th, the January 20th meeting, does anyone have any concerns or comments on these minutes?
No, Stan, those look good.
I agree with
So
Mary.
I would entertain a motion. Okay, I'd entertain a motion to approve then.
I'll make a motion to accept the January 20th minutes.
And I'll second it.
Excellent. Any further discussion? Roll call vote. Stan, aye.
Mary, aye.
Janet, aye.
Scott, aye.
I was gonna say maybe we should do this chronologically by order of time on the committee, so we're not stepping on each other. I don't know.
The weird Zoom pause.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
So our next one would have been the 27th of January.
Yes.
A little more meat on this one, but I didn't have any issues with it.
I didn't have any issues either, but I'll let people finish reading.
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
I make a motion that we accept the January 27th minutes.
And I'll second it.
Any further discussion?
Do we want to specify that the mediation needs to be prepaid?
I'm sorry.
Okay. Hearing none, a roll call vote. Stan, aye.
Mary, aye.
Janet, aye.
I was gonna say Mary, yeah. I think Julie, you're next because I think Scott's last.
Okay. It's like you're all in different order on
motion.
my screen. So.
All right, yeah, that is true. I don't know how we adjust the order. Can you adjust the order, the Brady Bunch order on here?
I think
or is
it's
that how you signed in? Well,
sign in, and whether or not you've had your video on, because that also tends to shuffle people around.
So here's a little pragmatic thing, Stan. We could do it alphabetically.
I was going to say the same thing, Mary Porter.
Okay, so sorry, Janet.
It's okay.
My first name or last name or middle name.
I said it louder, Janet, because I said it out loud.
But you were just faster.
Order on the committee is fine with me. That's easy for me to remember.
Last but not least, Scott.
That's right.
But you were on before,
well, that
so
passes.
almost like first.
I want to add up
What's
years.
that? Oh, right. Yes, exactly. Cumulative years. Yes.
Seniority.
Right.
So did we do the 27th, or did we get through all our I's? Because I lost track.
We did, yeah.
Okay.
We did.
So now we're reading February 10th, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Oh, Julie, you've got all of those A through E's in.
She sure does.
Actually, it's because I'm using the Google Doc.
Ah, gotcha.
It formats for you. I can't do that on my own.
There's a typo on 5.
Okay.
It's COVID, COVID.
Okay. Okay.
Not that anybody wouldn't know what that was.
Right.
That's the only thing I saw.
Mm.
Oh, she was just turning COVID into a 4-letter word. Good job, Julie.
Now you think of it as a 4-letter word at this point?
It is a 4-letter word.
That's what I mean. You're just formalizing it. That's all.
You really don't need the I, do you? Technically, COVID.
You could put an apostrophe in
Probably
there,
more
right?
just for pronunciation, no? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Do I have a motion for these minutes?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes with the one minor correction of COVID. February 10th minutes.
I'll second it. As corrected. Yep.
Any further discussion? All right. So how are we doing this? Do I still get to go first?
Yep.
Wield this awesome power that I have. Okay. Stan, aye.
Mary, I.
Jan and I.
Julie, I.
Got I.
Yeah, we'll go chronologically by height. Perfect. Okay.
Okay. So.
All right. Well, excuse me. Sorry.
Margaret, you can talk about what you wanted to tell the board about last night in the other meeting.
Contingency line versus reserve fund.
That
Hey,
sounds
June,
exciting.
I'm wondering, June, would you be able to chime in here about contingency line item versus reserve fund for the COVID and payroll contingency?
Yeah, I guess so.
Thank
pretty
you.
much the difference between a reserve fund is pretty much set up by the Mass General laws. Reserve fund is under the jurisdiction of the Finance Committee. They're the ones who sign off on it. In the past, we have given, I don't know, common courtesy to the selectmen to have them sign on the reserve fund transfer forms in the past, just so everybody knew what was going on. But there were times when we didn't have a selectman signature because we really didn't need it. The only time that we need to have a signature with reserve fund is when we do the last 2 months of the year. And we have line item transfers that we do from one line to another. Then we have to have both selectmen signatures and finance committee signatures on them. And the contingency was something that we all set up here. And the thought process is to have both the selectmen and the finance committee sign off on contingency lines, just so that way everybody was in agreement again, as far as what was happening. Did I cover it all?
You
Maybe.
did.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Yep. So, so the question then becomes whether or not we preserve any kind of contingency line in the budget, or just revert to the to use of the reserve fund for any unforeseen COVID expenses, or that can't be paid from coronavirus relief funds, or the payroll contingencies or contract adjustment contingencies. So I personally do not see the need to increase the level of funding in the reserve fund, although the administrative finance team and I will be meeting tomorrow. I think tomorrow morning we're supposed to meet, and we can talk about that a little more. But at the funding threshold that you're at now, unless there are some big unforeseen costs that I know you have had in prior years, but over the past couple of years, you've been pretty lucky. I don't see the need to bump it up tremendously at this point.
You're talking about the reserve fund.
Reserve fund, yeah, and we would just do away with the contingency fund.
Well, our last year we have 100 and something in the contingency fund.
It was 140, and only, was it less than 10,000? Less than 10,000 was spent of the 140, because we have not had the need to tap in to those COVID contingency lines. So
Right.
that's all going to revert
And-
back to free cash.
And our logic for the 140, if you could refresh all of our memories again, how did we come up with that number?
Of course, I don't have it. It was broken down into certain categories. There was a contingency for the market wage adjustments. There was one for ALS intercept costs to the newly developed River Bridge apartments, that, unforeseen costs that weren't budgeted for. There were other COVID contingencies. And then there was one other category, and I can't think of it off the top of my head, but bundled together, those were 140,000.
Yeah, I guess I'm just trying to get at, just because it wasn't expended in 1 year, what's the likelihood that it still wouldn't be needed?
That's where the unforeseen and extraordinary comes into play with reserve funds.
Well, right, and
do you have a breakdown of what those?
We had,
like a general breakdown of the dollar amounts, because it was 140. Like, obviously the market wage adjustment thing is off the table because that goes into the regular operating. Fact, how much was that part of it?
Let me pull it up.
Margaret, did we also have something in there in case the River Bridge apartments came through and there was going to be additional ALS, or no?
She mentioned
yes,
that one.
Yeah, that's one of them. Yeah.
There, I've got it in front of me. The fiscal 21 budget contingency line item.
That's
number one was ALS. For beyond, and there was 40,000 in that. Another one was a full-time firefighter EMT, if required, due to River Bridge. That was number two. The total there was 27,500. Number three was additional fire department EMS, if needed, after budgeted amounts are expended, again to calls from apartments at River Bridge. That was 6,000. Number four was market wage adjustments. So we had 33,000 in that. And the last one was any COVID-19 qualifying personnel expenses.
Oh, personnel.
Blah, blah, blah. FE for FEMA reimbursement. I guess because of the lag in the FEMA reimbursement. So we put 33,500 there. And it all adds up to 140. So it looks like it was either River Bridge driven or COVID driven, except the market wage adjustment would have been. But
well, I mean, we're already in February, which is good, and we haven't expended a ton of it. But I am somewhat nervous. Well, we're also talking about next year, but I'm also somewhat nervous about the fact that we're asking for level funded budgets, and we're still in a very uncertain environment. And I think our rationale for wanting this has not gone away. And just because we didn't expend it all, I mean, we can look at the total dollar amount if we think that it's, too much, and maybe cut it in half or something, take it to 100 or something like that. But I do worry that, and I don't expect it to happen, but I do worry that we could get a flurry of reserve fund transfers because budgets are lean because they've been told to be lean. So that's my concern.
So the board's discussion last night centered around, I think it was more focused on eliminating the contingency line and focusing on the reserve fund. So are you thinking, now this contingency line was funded from free cash, knowing that it would be highly unlikely that we spent it out. Would you look to use any free cash toward an increased funding in the reserve fund?
Let's keep in mind also that we have 2 contracts that have not yet been finalized. So that we're still going to have to possibly have funding because that is not in line items for both of those items. There's still an uncertainty as far as the COVID stuff goes. And
Yeah.
I can't remember what the capacity, what were we at as far as the building capacity at River Bridge? I can't remember what he said.
Oh, as of today, he mentioned it as of today.
It was 190 some out of, was it 190?
Oh, 124, I think, out of the
Thank you.
204 units are occupied, and the occupancy rate is 1.9 residents per unit, which is higher than what was expected initially.
So there could be additional ALS costs still associated with that may not be in the budget.
What was that? There you said it was 124 out of 200 and what?
Yeah, out of 204 are already occupied, okay. And the occupancy rate is 1.9 residents per unit.
1 point, that's two. I thought that's what they were kind of expecting, two people per unit, no kids. No, I mean, because of the way the bedroom was set up.
No, I thought that the estimate might have been a little bit lower than that, but it's going to be a solid 400 people.
So we may not have seen the full impact this year yet, as far as what that is.
Yeah.
Are all the units the same number of bedrooms?
No.
No.
So is it that 124 possibly a higher percentage of the larger number of bedroom ones, so that it brings up the average, or do we
it's possible.
Breakdown? It's
possible. He didn't break that down.
The other number that I made a note of, Margaret, from today was 240 people are there.
Oh, 240 people are there?
Yeah, I wrote that. 124 rented units out of the available 204 units, and 240 people, approximately 1.9.
Okay.
Are you saying 240 or 204?
204.
Oh.
204. Yeah. 240 people. 240 people are now there as rental tenants.
The 204 is the total number of units.
Number of units, yeah.
Okay.
Just to cause confusion of the similar numbers.
I thought.
Yeah, sorry. Yep. By the way, I'm looking at the contingency line policy, which I have here in this little notebook that I organized, and the funds revert back on June 30th, 2021.
Mm-hmm.
If into general funds if they're not used as of June 30, 2021. So we'll be through our contract negotiations by then. So yeah. Is there a decision needed today on this thing? I don't know.
No. I think I appreciate all the points that have been made tonight. I know that the board was leaning more toward focusing on the reserve fund rather than the contingency fund. But June's absolutely right and Stan's right. You've all made good points, because we still have a lot of uncertainties. The contract wages, when that's established, that's going to be a recurring cost. I don't think there's any good reason to fund that from free cash, or to even imply that's going to be funded from free cash. So maybe that's an appropriate reserve fund use. But if the contingency line needs to remain, or if additional funding needs to be put into the reserve fund to cover unforeseen COVID-related costs or ALS response or whatever to the apartments, then it's all, I think that stuff would be justified with free cash if you choose to do that. It's not they're not recurring costs, or at least we wouldn't want them to be. We wouldn't intend them to be.
What is our reserve fund number at right now? What did it start with, and what do we have remaining?
95,000 and 95,000.
Okay, hasn't been touched.
Hasn't been touched.
And where do we stand in snow and salt? Do we have an idea of are we? I know we got a good month and a half left to probably. I
don't know what the current and the this current spending is really going to be reflective of this week. There's going to be a lot of it going on this week.
Right.
I have not gotten a request yet for the deficit spending. So my assumption is that we're still within the budgeted appropriation.
One moment, I am checking.
Okay.
Well, we've also only paid that out of contingents, out of reserve fund.
Other line items I think we've done in the past too.
Yeah, I mean, it's not always out of reserve fund.
You do free cash, right? You fund it from free cash in the spring often?
If we've had to, sometimes if we have extra money in Chapter 32B, sometimes we've done that too. He's still really good right now as far as having money left in the budget before this last warrant that came through. So he still has 73,000 in the expenses.
With snow and ice?
Yep. But again, like Margaret said, the last couple of weeks, it's been busy and I don't think all the bills have come in yet. So I will keep you posted weekly as far as how that goes.
And it's going to be busy Thursday and Friday too.
Also, yep. Yeah. Which takes a couple weeks to run through the actual bills.
All right, so is that more of an FYI for now, Margaret? Is that yeah?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, definitely something to discuss.
All right. Well, who we have? Somebody got put off. Who got put off till next week?
Oh, that's what I wanted to. Assabet did. Would you like Assabet to go at 7:30 and at? Oh, wait a minute. Well, Tuesday night is Berlin-Boylston Regional School District's budget hearing, so that's on Tuesday night. Would you like me to invite the school district to your meeting on Wednesday night?
Sure.
The night after their budget hearing, and so say at 8. What time? 8:15.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll do it right now so I don't forget.
We'd have Assabet and Berlin-Boylston same night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say invite them for 8, Margaret, and then because Assabet's usually pretty quick, and if they are quick, then I'd rather the schools might take longer to, and if that's not that quick, then they can wait.
Okay. All right. Got it. 8 o'clock. We had a meeting today with Riverbridge. Mary, I don't know if you wanted to brief the FinCom on that meeting, or if you'd like to.
Sure. I guess we're not actually discussing the petitions or anything. It's just telling people what I heard today. Yeah. So we were given, I think yesterday, we were on the a Zoom meeting with the two Senny brothers, Chief Clark, myself, Chris Keefe, Margaret, and Chris Senny went over the 5 warrant petitions, citizens petitions that they're proposing to put in. And a couple of them deal with changes to the Riverbridge Development Agreement, that this would be the 3rd modification to it. And then there was one petition for a drive-up window for the Dunkin' Donuts, the gas station, plus one for the cafe. So there'd be 2 drive-up windows in that petition. And then, and that's a petition that requires zoning law change. So it's a 2/3 vote petition. And then there was a petition asking the town if it would go to the general legislature to get a 3rd liquor license in the town, which would then go to whatever they call that, Berlin Liquors, I guess it is. So there were 7 proposals for amendments to the development agreement for Riverbridge, and of course they were the Senny's wish list. And basically they want to finish up all their development activities sooner rather than later. So they really want to go forward with 30 townhouses on the lot in front of the apartments across the street from the hotel. And that's presently zoned commercial. So we need, again, a zoning bylaw change to move it from commercial to residential. So there's, I think my count is right, 2 zoning bylaw changes are proposed in the petition. 3.
Yes.
3.
2 zoning bylaw changes.
Yeah. And of course, the liquor one is just a vote. And
I thought they already had. I thought they had the second liquor one, or did that go when that store closed? It went.
They sold it for 1.2 million. The liquor license that was there at that little store, they acquired that, I guess, when they bought everything there.
Okay.
And they said today that they used the money, and they sold that liquor license to the store at Highland Commons.
Oh, right.
Grill.
Okay.
Sorry?
I think it was 110 Grill.
Okay.
That they sold it to.
No, no, it had to have been Highland Commons because the 110 Grill isn't on.
Store. Yeah. You're right. I'm sorry.
So I think for a town of 5,000 is what I heard today, that you know it's normal to have 2 licenses. If the town wants a third, they have to go request it of the legislature, and so that's what is proposed in the fifth. Let's call it the 5th citizens petition they're bringing forward is to see if Berlin would go and petition the legislature to give the town a 3rd liquor license, which then the Seni brothers would use for Berlin Liquors, something right there on the property there in River Bridge.
Is it guaranteed that they get that license after the state approval, or is that like another process?
I think the town has to make the petition. So the Senis have to come, the developers need to come to town meeting and say to the town, do you want to make this petition for us? And the town can say yes or no.
Okay.
But I don't think they can go directly to the legislature and get a license. I think it has to be the town.
No, but the town gets the license, this 3rd one.
Well, that was a question mark. Sorry.
I was getting kind of confused. So the town requests the 3rd license. Is it guaranteed that it then goes to Riverbridge?
Yeah, that was going to be my question too.
If it's petitioned for that way, I asked a question. If it's petitioned for that way, it can. But they've added in their citizens petition, and he's looking further into it, they've added the exact location of where this store is. And I said, is that something that's typical for a petition for the special legislation? So he's looking into that to see if the location would be something that's included. So that's his homework.
Okay.
Who is he again?
Oh, that's Chris Seni.
It is so okay.
Yeah.
How typical is it for the legislature to approve these? Is this almost the town asks for it? It's almost a rubber stamp. If it's just like going one above it.
It's very typical, very, very common. If you go on to the Mass General Laws website and you look up you can look up special legislation for Section 15 and Section 12 licenses. Many, many towns have gotten them. Yeah.
Okay, so if the town petitions for it, it's highly likely it will get approved by the legislature.
Likely. The legislature is moving extremely slow right now. We're finding with our other special legislation, but it's highly likely they'd grant it.
Other than the speed of it, it's almost certainly it'll probably be a yes.
Right.
So obviously we as the Finance Committee haven't discussed in detail the impact of changes to the development agreement that would allow the townhouses change and other things that they're looking for, and we would need to do that. So, but
well, I'm sorry.
Items 1 through 4 on their list would definitely take away value that the town presently has today under the agreement. Now, I don't know how realistic those items of value are in terms of actually getting the value out of this development, but they're there in the contract.
Well, my concern, like when I was listening to you, Mary, and of course you know more because you've heard it all, and I'm sure we'll all hear more about it, but we're going to change an area that is commercial to residential where we don't get taxed. In residential, we're not getting anything. We were just talking, is the residential going to be owned? Is it going to be, what did you say, townhouses?
Yeah, they'll be sold. They'll be, the units will be sold. So they'll be owned. They'll be, yeah, I mean, what I was able to articulate today is that we're going to need some hard facts and some what we consider to be reliable facts about costs and revenue. And we need to project out not just how it looks today, but what's the impact in the town a bit down the road. For example, and I raised this example with them that with the ambulance and rescue kinds of things, we now have these 204 apartment units in 3-story buildings with no elevators. And you know, Chief Clark came to us and said, look, you know, that our employees can get injured hauling people down the stairs in emergency rescue situations. And so that's a potential cost to the town that who was looking at that when the apartments were approved in their form, right? So we're starting with a new proposal here, and I think you need to look at all of the things that go into the cost benefit, the revenue and expense. And you know, I wasn't my place to talk for the committee because I didn't, you know, we haven't talked about it. And it's better if you have the paperwork in front of you and you get a chance to read it and think about it, and then we can have an informed discussion as well. Because I think, Margaret, if these petitions do end up at town meeting, somebody's going to ask somebody from Finance Committee to stand up and give our view on it.
Right, right. So, go ahead, Stan. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, yes, I'm sure they would have every right to expect that, and we certainly should be prepared to do that.
Mm-hmm. The deadline to submit the citizen petitions is Monday at 5 o'clock. So that's when the warrant closes. So they will be deposited by then, and we'll be happy to circulate them to you.
Margaret, do we have all the information that would be needed for like Molly to take a look at it to see what the tax differences would be if it was switched over? And then as far as school expenses, I mean, if it was going to go over to townhouses, then you get kids.
So Riverbridge is leaning heavily on the fiscal impact analysis, which is another thing that I can share with the entire finance committee. This is a report that was done by an independent consultant. I don't know that the town would agree with all the findings, but that fiscal impact study addresses the cost. It gives net revenue comparisons between what retail would have generated versus what the townhouses will generate. So I can share that with everybody.
I still go back to when this whole thing started years and years and years ago, that when the first thing they proposed, which never happened, we weren't smart enough to go back to say the zoning will go back to what it was if you don't complete the project that you're proposing to us, because we wouldn't have what we have down there now. And you know, a longtime Berlin resident, I would have loved conservation to have purchased that property. That to me was an entrance into the town, and it was just so pretty growing up. And I really have a hard time even driving in and out of there. I'm sorry to say. I just feel like it's just, I can't imagine any more going in down there, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
The biggest change, or one of the biggest changes back then, was they said they were going to have the assisted living.
Correct. Right. We all thought that was a great thing, going from, you know, it was like the one where in West Boylston or Worcester, where you have the little individual houses where you're still living alone, and then you move to assisted, and then you move to a nursing home, and you could basically stay in that one area through that whole stage of your life. And that never came to fruition. And we changed the zoning to allow that. And then because the zoning didn't get changed back, they were able to put in all that other stuff. And it really is unfortunate. I mean, lesson learned, but I just have a hard time with the whole process. It's my own personal, it has nothing to do with the committee, and I'm sorry, but I miss the fields down there the way they were.
Well, it also bought us
a proposal for changing.
So what did you guys say? Because you kind of talked together.
I just said it also bought us 40B compliance. That's all.
The 40Bs.
Yeah, but that we're not subject to those now all over town. So I mean, there's some good out of it. If you're a if you're not a big 40B person, then there's some good out of it anyway.
Yeah, your point is a good one, Janet, and we probably could have taken care of the 40B thing even with a reversion. But,
yep, absolutely.
But there it is. We have to deal with what the realities are today.
What it is. You're right.
For the what do they have remaining if this townhouses went into where the what's sold as commercial? Would they still have undeveloped commercial land?
Yeah.
Yes. There's an area in front of the hotel where you could put a restaurant and some retail.
It's just in that area would be remaining if this happened. That area by the hotel, that side of the street.
Yeah.
In front of the hotel, or when you're looking at the hotel to the left.
He called it a pad in front of the hotel, so I'm not sure what that means. Probably a little bit towards that small rotary. The thing is, there's so much wetland in and out, floodplain kinds of areas in and out of there. So they've really, most of what is buildable, I think, has already got something on it, except for this section where
this is their last big piece, is what they call it, the lot 32 piece. Or something, or lot 30, whatever.
And they're not going to do the project themselves. They're going to do what they did with the apartments and flip it once the approvals are in. So that, that also is something I think the town has to consider as we look at the development agreement is, if it is approved, if the town does vote and allow these townhouses, then we got to think about that, I think, a bit. The other thing is there's properties behind all that development where Boundless Adventures are and so on. So there's some other negotiations, and Margaret, you and probably Tim Wheeler have thought about this a lot more than I have, but there's properties back there where they've got some wells, and they're talking about trying to make some deal with the town, and presently they're sitting on the water supply. There's some kind of nonprofit that they are the principals of that's supplying public water from those wells.
That's from the water system at Riverbridge as opposed to the wells. Those wells actually are inactive. The 2 wells on the River Run parcel are inactive at the moment.
Thank you. Thank you.
I did have questions. I did have questions on that I did not present at our meeting today. So I continue to have questions, I guess.
Yeah. So there are at least 4 wells or something in there, or is there a single?
There are 2. There are 2 and a pump house.
2 active wells.
2 active, but well, there are 2 inactive wells on the River Run parcel.
Yeah, and then River Bridge has 2 actives.
River Bridge has a public water system. They have a large, big water system. Yeah.
Oh, okay, got it.
Nobody in the family knows her.
Got it.
And so my aunt gave me this, and she said, "What do you think? Do you think you can get this?" And I said, "I don't think it would fly." And
what is that other meeting I hear?
What's interesting is—
Sorry, that's Wendy.
Oh,
she's loud.
Well, that is Wendy's voice. Now that I think of it.
Yeah, now that Stan says that, I recognize it too.
Mr. Chair, I have nothing else to report to the FinCom tonight.
She put on, she went to go ice skating, but she—
All right, well, does anyone else have anything?
Wasn't there something we're supposed to say it from capital planning? I don't know why I thought that. From last night? Roof or something?
It's a roof.
Wasn't I supposed
capital
to remind you or something? Was it capital?
No, that was the last night thing, but we took care of that. The capital planning committee though is supposed to be meeting tomorrow night on possibly including the roof, town office roof replacement in their capital in our capital budget. So we'll keep you posted on that. I know the capital planning committee really wanted to. Yeah. They really want to get that roof replaced in order to deal with the air handler, the rooftop air handler. So we'll keep you posted on
that. I have a question. I've been trying to figure out the spreadsheet, and I know you've been kind of sort of populating it. Is there some place where I mean, my own past experience, we tried to keep that, even though we know the numbers were constantly changing, always populated just to see how the numbers were always moving. And is there a way that I can, I mean, I look at the spreadsheet that's up there, I can't tell if there's lots of missing cells or the data is not there for the cells. And I got a lot of just, the pound things. And I was trying to figure out how to.
Are you trying to pull it up on Google Docs?
It's on Google Docs, yeah. I'm not sure if it just says ugly on Google Docs or what.
It's awful. It has to really be downloaded into Excel to be able to read those, and then you'll see the numbers. I'm sorry, I'm not a fan of Google. I'm not a huge fan of Google Docs.
Yeah, I don't use it myself.
No, if you download it though, Scott, to Excel, you'd be able to get the numbers. You should be able to get the numbers.
Okay, if I just download it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I work from Excel and just put it into the Google Drive. So I suppose if I worked on Google Sheets, it might show all the numbers, but I don't work on Google Sheets.
Okay.
All right, so try that and let me know if you still have trouble with it.
Okay, great, thanks.
Sure.
Okay, Stan, now if everybody's spoken, are you looking for that entertaining question of the night?
Well, not premature. Only if folks are done.
You have to ask to find out.
Yeah. Does anyone have anything else? Okay, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Well, I'm going to go for it because I missed the last one. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Last one. I mean, I know you all want to hear Wendy and her meeting, but sorry.
Sounds way more entertaining.
Oh, well, she's an entertaining individual. That one, that's for sure.
She is. I will attest. Lifelong friend.
Janet.
Can we just make a lot of noise and interrupt Wendy's meeting, or do you think she just won't hear us?
Oh yeah.
She won't hear us. She's got her headphones on.
Take it off recording first.
Well, and she has her headphones on. She won't hear us.
Oh, okay.
That's why it gives her license to be loud too when she has the headphones on. It doesn't quite realize how loud she is. Put it that way.
I can play the videotape back for her now.
Stop recording.
Good thing she's cute. That's all.
Oh gosh.
Okay, I made
all right, guys. Well, thank you.
Adjourn.